In today's episode, we're going to talk about how you can make money playing and teaching video games. What? All right, guys, I am currently in an airport in Grand Rapids, Michigan, and it is 11:17 at night. We've had like 10 delays. We had a layover in Chicago that we missed long ago. We were on the plane, and then the captain comes out and he says, there's a screw loose and we need maintenance to come. And then 20 minutes later, he said maintenance won't be here for an hour. So apparently we will be staying the night in Chicago, but the show must go on. We have an episode that needs to get published by tomorrow morning. So I am on my phone in an airport with no one here, which is random because it's super late and everyone's already left. But yeah, regardless, we've got a really cool episode with someone who makes money playing video games, teaching people how to play video games. Even more importantly, she uses a really cool platform called Outschool, which is something I recently discovered, and it's a really cool way that you can basically teach anything that you want, anything you're interested in. You can get people together and you can make money doing it. So I think it's an awesome episode. I think it's something that a lot of people could put into action, they could utilize as a way to make money teaching their passion. So I'm really excited to share this episode with you. Hope you guys get a lot of value out of it. I know I did. Ladies and gentlemen, without any further ado, I give you the one, the only, Devyn Ricks.
Is it true that you make money playing video games? I'm not sure I believe this.
Yep, that is my real life job, Justin. I kind of don't believe it either, honestly, most days.
Give us some context. How did you get into this? I'm about to stop everything I'm doing and just figure out how to do what you're doing. That sounds amazing.
So my official title that I go by is a video game teacher because I'm a teacher on Outschool. That's the platform where I teach my video game social clubs. So I've been in the online teaching world probably about 6 or 7 years. I've done a little bit of everything, but the way I stumbled into this is I started teaching on Outschool as a side hustle when my husband started dental school and we needed, some extra money. We have 4 daughters, and so we were like, we want some extra money for dance classes, singing classes. And so I was like, well, I'll start teaching on Outschool. And I actually started by teaching Spanish, but it wasn't traditional Spanish. It was Pokemon Spanish.
That's
And
awesome.
so instead of like, the apple is red, it was like, Fue Coco is red and like Pikachu is yellow. And so from there, I started building up this kind of little space where I would teach skills that I loved and I was passionate about, like writing and languages, but they would have this pop culture video game twist because I also love video games. And so from Spanish, it led into these English writing classes. And I was doing a Zelda creative writing class. And students would come and I'd be like, all right, what we're going to do is we're going to create characters and setting. And we'd work on these writing fundamentals. But then they'd be like, well, Miss Devin, I'm stuck on this part of my Zelda game. What do I do? And I'm like, well, we can talk about that, on our free day, but we're focusing on writing. And then they were like, well, Miss Devin, can't you do a video game social club where you teach us how to play these video games? And I kind of laughed. I was like, sure, we could do that. Like, will anyone actually come? Probably not. And I even, joked with my husband. I was like, they want me to do social clubs. He's like, let's try it. And then they just became more and more popular. And I don't teach any Spanish anymore. And I don't teach very much writing because my students just want to come and meet other kids who are playing games that they're playing. So
That's awesome.
that's kind of how we got here.
So walk me through it. What does a typical class look like? How many classes do you have? The podcast I listened to before, you mentioned how you were thinking about expanding, but now I'm checking out your Outschool site and you have expanded. You have lots of teachers and I can't even keep track of, I'm like, whoa, so many. So tell us, like, how does this work?
So what basically happens, I'll give you an example with Zelda because that's the game of the moment, right? Tears of the Kingdom just came out on the Nintendo Switch. And so my students will enroll in the social club. And when I explain it to people, I like to explain it that the video game is just where we start. It's the common interest where we all meet. And then it's really about these kids getting to meet other kids in an environment that's safe and with kids that have their same interests. So it's very much like a book club or a volleyball club, the same idea, but with video games. And so they'll come into class, and my job is to make sure that all the kids are safe, that it is only children in the class, that there's no adults. And then my other job is to make sure that everyone is socializing and having a good time. And so I'll usually start my classes out. I'll be like, all right, guys, what are we doing in our game today? And I have some students who are like, Miss Devin, I did this coolest thing. I have to show you. And I get it. A lot of people that they would tell this to would be like, oh, Cool. But I'm like, that's amazing. Teach me how to do it.
It's awesome.
And they feel that acceptance and that appreciation for something that they love. And so then they come every week. It's a weekly class. And every week we just play games. And if there's not a lot that we're doing that week, I play on screen so I can show them things that I'm doing. Or I can go to a puzzle that they're working on and be like, let me show you how to do the puzzle. And I walk them through it. But again, it's really more about the socialization than the game itself.
The game is a focal point that they all have a common interest in that brings them together and something to connect on.
Yep, exactly. And the way these kids, when they realize that there are other children out there that love video games the way they love it, it changes. I have kids who will come to their first class and they're like, oh, yeah, I really like Zelda. And they're really shy about it because they don't want to geek out too hard and freak out everyone in the
Hmm.
room. I think a lot of people do that with interests in general. But once they see, like, no, we all love this game as much as you do, they're like, oh, I can tell you this awesome theory I have. We can talk about this. And their
That's
their
awesome.
self-confidence. I see it just it's amazing. It's
I
amazing.
love that. And once you connect on one thing, you feel comfortable and safe to connect on all levels. Like
Oh yeah.
my son, I mean, all my kids, they all have their different strengths and things they're working through. And my oldest sometimes struggled with social anxiety and friends, but
Mhm.
he's very social when he finds his right people, and he loves
Yes.
dragon fruit and trampolines. You can see my crooked finger. Anyway, that's a whole other thing. But when he's hanging out with someone who likes trampolines, it's so beautiful to see that.
Oh yeah, you can see it. Kids know. I mean, we all know when someone's like faking it, like, oh yeah,
Totally.
trampolines are cool. But when someone's like, yeah, I love trampolines, then your kid is like, wow, that's
Yes.
amazing.
And they're talking like a whole new language, but then they're doing a bunch of other things, and it's been really cool to see that for him. That's been a huge, like you mentioned, helps him with his self-esteem and confidence
Mhm.
and social and other ways. So
Well, and you mentioned social anxiety. A lot of my students, parents will message me beforehand and they'll say, hey, my kiddo is neurodivergent or has social anxiety or has been bullied at school before.
mm,
All of these different things that kids go through. And they're
totally.
like, I want to make sure this is a good place for my son or my daughter. And I'm like, absolutely. They are safe here. We don't allow any of that. And they know that. That's the other thing about Outschool is the safety of it.
Hmm.
Everything is recorded. All of the teachers go
Hmm.
through a background check and there's a whole support and safety team that helps us keep these kids safe online while they're making these sometimes international connections. I have one class where one student's in the UK, one's in Italy, I have another one in Texas, like all three of them in the same class. And it's such a cool experience for these kids.
That's awesome. So let's talk more about your specific business, and then
Mhm.
we can get into how other people could possibly start a business or make money throughout school. Like I said, so you had before it was just you as the teacher. Can you
Yeah.
run through some of the economics, kind of give an idea what someone could expect?
So I'll break it down for you. So each of my classes, when I started teaching, I was charging $12 for an hour long class. Now I charge 15 for an hour long class. Outschool is the marketplace that brings in the customers, does all the marketing and everything like that. So they take 30% from that. So I bring
It's
in
fair.
about $10 per student per hour of class. I like to have my classes around 7 to 10 kids. That's like my sweet spot.
Hmm.
I feel like if it's any more than that, then kids get lost in the chaos. And I feel like if it's any less, it's not as chaotic as I like it.
Yeah,
I
totally.
like a little bit of chaos.
Totally.
And so, what my goal was when I first started teaching without school was, like I said, just to kind of make a side income, extra $500, extra $1,000, something like that, so that we could do all of these things for our daughters while my husband was in school. And then what started to happen was my classes became more and more popular and just a traditional supply and demand. I did not have any more hours that I could give while
Mm,
still being a mom and a wife. And so what Outschool allows teachers to do is what's called create an organization, which is what I am now. So I have been able to hire my own teachers to also teach classes. So now what happens is I've hired on nine teachers to help teach my classes. And they teach some of the same classes as me, but then there's also some games that they play that I don't play, but that my students wanted. So, like Fortnite is a great example. I've never played Fortnite. I don't know
mhm.
anything about it, but I have tons of students who are like, Miss Devin, I want to play Fortnite. Do you have a social club? And I'm like, no. But now I have this teacher who does, and the parents are immediately ready to jump into that class. The students respect that I am basically recommending my employee as their teacher. And so I've been able to expand my gaming catalog quite a bit and then also provide these jobs for fellow gamers.
That's so cool. So let's dive into that a little more.
Mhm.
You have like 7 to 10 people.
Mhm.
You end up making about $10.
Mhm.
And then what do the teachers that work under you or with you make?
I start them at 20 an hour and then it goes up depending on the number of students. So as the class size increases, their pay also increases.
I love that. I literally was just talking to my brother-in-law, and I've said this to a lot of people. I said, if you can find something, anything in life, because he's like flipping couches. He's like, isn't that a little ghetto? I mean, he just came out of rehab. He was in jail. Like, so he had nothing. So it's like, but he can make, we ran the numbers, he can make like $50 to $100 an hour flipping couches. And then I'm like, and then someday once you get the supply and demand going, you could pay other people $20, $25 an hour. This light bulb went off when I said, then you can be making 20 to 25, 30, $40 an hour on other people. And I said,
Yes.
that's leverage. I said, that's how you start to make, because he has debt, he has kids. He needs to be making like $250,000 a year just to like kind of get by. So I'm like, we got to like, out of necessity, we've got to figure something out for you. So his mind was blown. And so it's so cool to hear these numbers. They line up exactly with what I'm talking about. You've created this demand where there's a potential to make 70, 80, $100 an hour. And
Mhm.
now you're giving other people an opportunity. And I messaged another guy earlier because he's like, I don't think I can afford to hire people. I'm like, no, you're making like $100 an hour. You can't not afford to hire people, number
Right.
one. And you are hurt. Like there are other people who are not in the spot that you're currently in, and they need a job right now. And you're
Mhm.
denying them that privilege. So it kind of changed his paradigm. So I
Well,
love this.
and it's great too because it's like you said, once you get to that point where you are giving everything you can possibly give, I thought about that. And this was kind of my two roads. I was like, I can raise my prices or I can bring on more people because my time, it's at its maximum. I
Yeah.
cannot put in any more hours into this because I have other responsibilities. And so you're exactly right. Now at 5 o'clock on a Tuesday afternoon, instead of having one class, I can have 4 classes or 6 classes, depending on how many teachers I have that want to teach in that hour, and it makes all the difference.
I love that. And there are a lot of people out there like, oh, I just want to be nice and help people. It's like, no, you can help more people through capitalism because then it makes your time make sense. It makes other people's time make sense. And then there's value given there. Because I see people,
Mhm.
they'll drop out of doing business because they don't want to charge money or they don't want to hire people and make money from those people. I'm like, no, like it's how it works. It helps everyone involved.
And I think the biggest thing when people say, I feel bad, I don't want to take advantage of people, that's when you have to look at the price point because I would not feel good hiring a teacher and being like, okay, I'm going to pay you $10 an hour. And
Totally.
then on the flip side, I'm making well more than that,
Sure.
but if you're fairly compensating the people who are working for you and trying to do as much profit share as you can, then as you succeed, they succeed also.
So talk to me a little about, you mentioned that Outschool does the marketing, but obviously you do some of the marketing too, right? Because you're creating a demand, trying to get a better understanding of it. Why would they go work with you instead of go do their own thing? Because I imagine you can't
Mhm.
just go on there and all of a sudden you have a bunch of students.
I have created the brand. That is what I have created because you're absolutely right. Like, Justin, if today we get off this call and you're like, I love Pokemon, I'm going to go teach a Pokemon class.
Yep.
Absolutely. You could apply to be an Outschool teacher. You could go through their whole process and everything. Let's say you get approved, you put up your Pokemon class, but you're just someone. But with
Hmm.
me, I already have these hundreds of students I've taught, thousands of parents that know me. And now these teachers are a part of my brand. And so when I put out a new class, each of those teachers that's following me on Outschool, each of those students that I have on my Outschool email list, they get a push that says, hey, Miss Devin just put out a Fortnite class. And
Awesome.
so if they get an email from Outschool that says Miss Devin's Fortnite class and Justin's Fortnite class, if they've had one of my classes, they're going to go for my class first. I also have the reviews, just that social proof that you really need for a product. It's why people will buy an Apple or an Android instead of generic phone 2.0. It's all about the brand. And so that's what I have created on Outschool. It's the Miss Devin's video game universe. That's the brand. That's what parents are expecting when they come to my classes or any of my teachers' classes.
So it's kind of like any other platform like Amazon, or
Hmm.
sometimes my wife does, like if we need a house cleaner, there's different platforms that you can go on,
Yes.
or
Hmm.
Upwork and things like that. It's like they'll do some of the marketing, but also you got to build up some credibility and build up your own things. Same with like a podcast.
Hmm.
They'll be able to find it on Apple or Spotify. And if they search, they might find us, but we got to do a lot of pushing ourselves, and it kind of builds it both ways. It's another way to market it. sounds like.
Exactly. And that kind of marketing, you take Amazon as an example, to get those sales, to get those reviews, all it is time. That is what it takes. You have to be, your product has to be available for a year, 2 years, 3 years for that many sales to come in and for that percentage of people to actually review it. And so that's what's happened with me starting as an individual teacher. I have put in that time. And then my teachers are able to just jump in kind of halfway through this journey and join me, which is so fun. I love it.
I love that. So let's dive in a little more to what are some other opportunities on Outschool that people out there maybe get their brains going on things that they could do to make some money teaching these kids.
The amazing thing about Outschool is that it is a hub of every kind of activity you could ever possibly think of. And I
Mm,
don't mean that flippantly. Like
yeah.
their whole policy is teach what you love, teach what you're passionate about. So if you go on Outschool and it's all for children, there's no adult classes, but 3 to 18. Let's say you go on there and you wanted to teach a how to make a podcast class. You could do that.
Oh,
Or if you
cool.
wanted to do a pottery class, or if you wanted to teach a writing class, or even if you wanted to have like a cats social club where you just come
Mm,
and talk about cats. You can do it. So it is literally finding what you love and what you want to talk about for hours and hours and hours, and then teaching children who want to learn from someone who loves what they love too. So it can literally be anything. It's pretty incredible and it can be overwhelming. There's Lego social clubs, there's the video game ones that I teach, but there are some podcasts, there's lots of art, there's English, there's math. So there's everything from those core curricular subjects to expanding to just the social aspect and those soft skills that kids aren't necessarily learning in a day-to-day basis.
I was on here just before our call. Basically, just go on and look at what other people are doing because it kind of gives you an idea, and it might think you think, oh, I'm kind of good at that and this, but I could do it
Mhm.
in this way. What do you think the difference is between doing Outschool and just starting your own website and platform type thing?
The biggest thing with Outschool, again, I mean, we were just talking about brand. Outschool is a massive brand
Hmm.
in the ed tech industry. Their email list is international, it's massive. So, you have all of that. You also have all the support. But B, with children online, parents are always very, very cautious about
Mm,
safety, as they should be. I'm a mom, I'm very cautious about that. And so, if you see on Outschool a credible source that says, hey, here's a video game social club where your child can play games with other kids, there is this safety that parents feel without school. Whereas if I were to create my own and it's like, come have your kids play video games with me,
yeah, that's a good point.
it's not the same. And then it also, there's a lot of that built in safety as a customer as well. So that if you're unhappy with a class, there's a happiness guarantee. There is support, there's handbooks, there's policies, all of those kind of background things that sure you could make your own. But again, it's that time thing we were just talking about. And it's also finding the customers. Outschool's reach is so massive. So I think that it is well worth the 30% that I give them
Yeah,
for
it's
them
a
to do
faster
all of
way
that.
to kind of get going. They have the platform.
Mhm.
Do people ever do both? How sometimes
Mhm.
people have like an Amazon store and then they do their own
Oh,
Shopify store.
absolutely. Yeah, I have a good friend. I've networked with a lot of different Outschool teachers, but I have a good friend who's an art teacher. And every summer she hosts in person summer art camps in her town. And she
Mm,
has her own online stuff where she also hosts art classes. And so you can absolutely do both. And so if you have a business that's already existing and then you just wanted to tap into the Outschool industry as well, you can do that. So you can
yeah.
absolutely do both.
I don't want to get in any gray area here, but do people ever use it to get students or clients over to their other platform?
Outschool has some very strict policies
Okay.
about it. I can't contact parents off platform. I
Okay.
can't ask for personal information,
Yeah.
to protect their client book, but again, it's that privacy thing.
Yeah, for
Children
sure.
cannot share any of like their contact information, phone number, email, address, any of that stuff that I could use like to build my own contact
Hmm.
list. However, Outschool does say they're like, if you have a big enough presence online and people find you, then they find you. So like with my stuff, I've been building Miss Devon's video game universe, and my TikTok is growing and my Twitch is growing. And I
Awesome.
know that there's overlap.
Mm,
Students have found me on Twitch and have found me on TikTok, but I
yeah.
cannot go to them on Outschool and say, hey, why don't you just come over to this side?
Yeah.
That's not okay.
But
You
Miss
will get in big
Devon's,
trouble.
that is your brand. It's not like an out, it's like
Exactly.
your thing. And do you do anything off of Outschool then? Did I?
I'm building up a couple more things. So what I'm working on right now is I'm building up a social club for adults is what I'm trying to build. So
Awesome.
same idea as Outschool for children, but for adults. Because as I posted this on my TikTok telling people what I did, they were like, "Oh, do you do this for adults?" And I was like, "I guess I could." So
Totally.
I've been building that kind of infrastructure and everything, and I'm hoping to launch it hopefully this summer sometime is my goal. So that's what I'd
Yeah,
love to
because even
do.
though adults don't need like a quote unquote safe space in the same way, you still don't want to be online. I don't know who knows who from where and what, and it can
Exactly.
get kind of weird.
Well, and gaming, some games are more toxic than others.
Yeah,
And you don't want to be, I mean, especially as a woman, as a female gamer,
totally,
it can
totally.
get so mean and so aggressive. And people don't want to, like, when they game, they want to relax. They want friends,
Yeah,
they want to play with friends. That's what makes gaming fun. But it's hard to game with friends unless you know friends to game with. But most adults don't. It's not something that is like talked about super often.
yeah. So here's a question: how did you get on the Kelly Clarkson show?
So I got on the Kelly. That's a good question. So the interview you saw with Nick was actually my very first interview I ever did.
Oh, awesome.
And then from that one, I was on the Utah local news. And then someone from Fox News reached out to me. And then after my Fox News interview, a producer from the Kelly Clarkson show reached out to me and said, "We might have something. Can we kind of like keep you on retainer?" And I was like, "Absolutely." And then when the Mario movie was coming out, they had me as their
Mm,
social media moment, which made perfect sense. I was like, I
yeah,
think it'll probably be for the Mario movie. So
that's
they
awesome.
reached out to me and it was a really cool experience.
Well, I love it. This is amazing. Anything else you want to share?
My biggest tip, I've done a couple of different entrepreneurial adventures. And I think the biggest thing with entrepreneurs, just get started. You're going to mess up. It's okay. You don't know what you're doing until you do it. I still feel like now that I have all of these teachers teaching for me, I'm still like, am I doing this right? Have I covered all of my bases? I'm sure I haven't, but I'm going to keep going. You can't let that, what should I do perfectly, fear kind of paralyze you. So that's kind of my parting words, I guess.
I love it. So if anyone wants to they have kids, I think it's 9 to 12 is the where you focus.
I focus on 9 to 12-year-olds, yeah, but we have some extra flexibility there too.
Okay, so if anyone has kids that like to play games in a safe place, where can they find you? Where can anyone find you who wants to reach out for anything you got?
Yeah, so you can find me on TikTok. It's Miss Devon's VGU, Video Game Universe. If you go on outschool.com and type in Miss Devin, just make sure Devin has a Y. That's what I tell everyone,
Yep.
Devyn. The nice thing is my weird spelling is working in my favor now.
Yeah,
So
totally.
honestly, if you type in Miss Devin in Google, you'll probably find my stuff.
Awesome. There you have it, folks. You can make money doing anything. Video games. Video games. Follow your passion.
Is Devin not the coolest or what? And playing video games to make money? How awesome is that? If you like this episode, please share with a friend. If you have any questions or anything you'd like to know from us, any topics you'd like us to cover, reach out at Justin or Tara at millionaireuniversity.com. Other than that, get out there, make something happen. I was just at a trampoline competition, a freestyle trampoline competition with my oldest son, Brogan, for the last few days. And even being here, I saw so much opportunity. Like, this sport is pretty young in its infancy. And the guys that are running it are awesome people, but they're just passionate about it. And I saw so many things that could be improved. Literally 5, 10, maybe 15 or 20 business opportunities just from being here in these last few days, just from freestyle trampolining. The opportunities to make money and live your passion are endless. And the cool thing is you get to solve problems and help people while you do it. I mean, the event was amazing, and there are some kids that are super talented, but all these kids age out when they finish high school because there's not really many opportunities for them to make a living and make a career doing this. And seeing some of the disorganization, but yet people having such a great time, and it's such an amazing community, and these are amazing people who are helping run this, it just got me thinking of opportunity after opportunity after opportunity. And the cool thing is, I mean, for me, I didn't look at it as like, oh, I can make all this money or whatever. But it's like, these guys I don't think are really looking at the money making aspect of it. They're just passionate about it. But because of that, it's not as good as it could be. It's not helping or serving as many people as it could be. And I was even talking to one of the guys, he's like, oh yeah, I spend money each year doing this. Like, I lose money on this. And I'm like, well, that's why it's not where it should be. And it's kind of like he wears it as a badge of honor, which I think is super cool. I'm all about charities and helping people and stuff like that. But it's like, well, it's not a charity. You're not treating it like a business. Therefore, you can't afford to hire someone to help plan it and do the events. And that's why there was some complaining from some of the parents and some disorganization and frustration and different things. But it still was super cool. And I just saw so many opportunities from it. I won't get into it right now. Maybe we'll do another episode on how I'm going to change the freestyle trampoline industry. Really, the truth is, as Brogan gets older, I'm trying to help him find opportunities of things that he's passionate about and that he's interested in, that he's good at, and things that he can do, so he doesn't have to spend the rest of his life doing something that he's not that interested in doing. I've seen his soul be drained from doing certain things that he's not passionate about, but I've also seen him come to life when he's doing things like this, things that he loves and being with people that he connects with. So that's really what drives me. But you got to make it make money. Otherwise you can't keep doing it. It doesn't make sense. It's impossible. And then the people stop doing the things that they could be doing, how they could have been changing the world, because they don't want to make money from it. And it's like, no, please make money. All these people would have been happy to pay more money to have had a better setup, a better experience. Not that they didn't have a great time, but it could have just been so much better. And these are like the guys that are in charge of the sport for like literally the entire world. And I'm not dogging on them. They're amazing, very generous, kind people who have spent a ton of time and are very passionate about this thing. But look for problems, look for things that could be improved. Look for services. Like, it literally is a service. You can be serving and helping people and making money while doing it, and literally changing the world in your own special way. So that's all I got. This is Justin signing off late at night from Grand Rapids, Michigan. I don't know if we'll ever get out of here. It looks like our estimated departure time is like 11:30. We're already on the plane. We got off the plane. Just seeing what's going to happen. Luckily, I'm still kind of on California time, so I'm feeling pretty good. My wife was like, I'm so sorry. I'm like, I actually don't care. I'm feeling great. I don't know why. I guess it's like, if it's out of your control, why stress about it, right? Not like I always do that perfectly, but, working on it. All right, guys. Love you all. Have a great rest of your day. Have a great week. Get out there. Make something happen. Move forward. Keep taking action. And we will see you next time on the Millionaire University podcast.